continuing from our last stream of Order of Battle, playing the Blitzkrieg DLC, which is the sort of starter for the console version of Order of Battle. We are currently in turn 13. We need to capture 3 primary VPs, which we have: capture Oslo, capture Trondheim. We need to connect up Oslo and Trondheim and destroy 6 allied ground units. Now, these 6 allied ground units need to be, I believe, French or English, but not the Norwegian defenders. So that is our goal, our objectives. Keep that in mind. Right. Okay, we have our aerial reconnaissance very well shot up, so we're going to bring them back to the air base. Try to get them in a better shape. Now, the Führer demands we have victory. Now, so what we're going to do is we're going to move these guys up to here. We're going to assault there, even though it's at something of a bad odds. No, we're not going to assault. That's too bad of an odds, but they're going to attack us, and hopefully we'll do a little better being somewhat defensive there. Now, we also have, let's see, our forces down here. Many we've already operated on this turn, earlier this turn. Well, quickest way is just use this button here. Yeah, we need to push here. We don't have time to keep waiting around. That gives the Germans a slightly better attack. Hey, Beam Slam! Yes, yes, taking Oslo, or Norway, but yeah, Oslo. We've already captured the capital. Now, I don't know how important it was to take Norway for the Germans. No, we're not going to assault that. The British, Churchill earlier, when he was First Lord of the Admiralty, wanted to go and help out Finland because Germany and the Soviet Union had allied to take out Poland. So we need to land our Panzer I unit. And so, hey, Jam today. Thank you. Really do appreciate that. These guys are in the swamp, but we'll get them up along this road next turn. And there wasn't a whole lot going on for Britain. I'm not saying nothing going on, but not a whole lot. And you had the Winter War start. Up in, Finland versus the Soviet Union. And Churchill wanted to intervene and help the Finns because he saw that as fighting. Well, one, yeah, okay, we want to get these guys up here. He was a long-term anti-communist. Since this guy has no experience, well, I mean a little bit, but we're just going to do the cheap upgrade, and we're going to move these guys up here. Fallschirmjägers. And so he thought it would benefit, the Allied cause. And to the point of, if need be, if he didn't get permission from Norway and or Sweden, he was willing to invade, to do this, or that was at least what he was. Maybe it was a bluff. I don't know how far it would have gone. Now, remember, he's First Lord of the Admiralty at this time. He is not the Prime Minister, so he doesn't get the controlling vote. But that's sort of where the Allies start to think about intervening in Norway. They are aware of Swedish steel that, at least during winter, which of course is a fairly long period of time in Norway and Sweden, needs to come out of Narvik because you can't get it overland easily, readily in winter through Sweden. So the British had been violating Norway's neutrality and trying to mine some of the waters to sink, the transports. And the Germans, well, we can discuss whether the generally civilian transport, and I don't, quite honestly, right off the bat, I don't know if the transports that were doing the iron or the steel that was coming out of Narvik were German flag, Norwegian flag, or flagged or somebody else. We're going to take this airport to do two things. One, deny it to the Allies. They've already been able to take their fighters off, but will allow us to move our fighters up here and be able to refuel, increasing the operational capabilities. So we want to do that, and I'm placing him right here, so hopefully he is supplying both areas there. Hello, Lieutenant, how you doing? And so we're already having a, how neutral is Norway situation going on? Norway doesn't want to be in the war, obviously. And this is the best one to start the attack with. So they're not terribly pleased about it. There is some, I don't know how much the Germans understood about the Allies considering to intervene in Norway. But I think they were getting some information along those lines that they're going to have much better time of it. On the attack there. Yes, I do think Norway could have put up a resistance from a French-British invasion force, but it probably, let's see, we have, where's the other, it's look out here, we have that Stuka there. We're gonna bombard there. But how vigorous of a defense? I think we're going to play it safe. One more. Would the Norwegians have put up against a French-British attack? Because obviously Norway is incapable of defending itself against a first-rate power like Britain, like France, or like Germany in the long run. It just isn't capable of it. And now it can, and we saw, hey Eraser SK, how you doing? Now we saw the Norwegians put up a modest fight. against the German invasion, but even then, shall we say, they were unprepared. Now, I'm trying to, these, they've attacked. These guys here are going to attack. And then we're going to bring our BF 110s down to give a little bit of a strafing attack. Can I play as US in European theater? I found only... Okay, well, good that you're mentioning that, Eraser. They are currently working on the Allies DLCs. The Allies Defiant is the one that's out. They've already announced, so this I know I can say. It's going to be a trilogy of Allied-based, European-based, I believe, DLCs, and coming not too long from now, there will be the middle one coming out, and then there will be the final one. I believe, not sure, I believe the US will be, because I quite honestly don't know yet, will be in the second and or third DLC. The first one was Allies Defiant was dealing with sort of the reverse of what we're fighting here. The Allies defending against the Germans in Norway and France and North Africa. Now it's going to be moving a bit later in the war. But you're right, the Americans currently, and there were some of the earliest DLCs, were Pacific-based thing. So, hello, Paul Winter. Good to have you here. So, coming soon will be the Americans. And if you're playing on the PC, the base game is free. The first mission of the DLCs are free, so just wait till it comes out, and then you can get what you were looking for, I hope. And we will be, whether it's me or somebody else, we will be showing off here whatever the DLCs are, and I will be covering, knowing all that eventually. Okay, so the Germans have a significant advantage if we attack with these guys here, with our engineers. These guys are running low on ammo. It's all the way down here. I'm going to hopefully do better. The false Jaegers push out now. These guys can move in here instead of have them come up and push here. So Germany, of course, decides, Hitler, Germany, however you want to say it, decides to invade Norway. Because, like I was saying, to protect the Swedish steel coming along the coast, deals with the ongoing, because you know, we can sort of see on this map here, the mini map, a little bit. This is a flank of Germany's lifeline out into the Atlantic. If Germany is even contemplating shipping at all, and at this time, because remember France is still looking pretty solid, if they're planning on contemplating any shipping at all, they have to secure this flank to be able to do so. Now, it probably isn't practical to do too much shipping. I mean, like trade into the Atlantic, but if you're even contemplating, you need this because you need the air support that would be land-based. So, and if Britain is willing to violate Norwegian waters neutrality, they might be willing to violate more. you get the picture. You sort of need to see about taking out Norway, and of course, for whether it's the U-boat war, the naval raiding war, or even if you're dreaming of the German high seas fleet coming out in. Yeah, this is before. Hey, Jaculius, yes. The invasion of Denmark and Norway happens before the start of Fallgelb and the invasion of the Low Countries into France. Now, it is still continuing up in Narvik, which we're not on for this mission, as Fallgelb is going on. So the sort of remnants wrapping up in the far north are still going on as Fallgelb starts, but this is before the main Battle of France happens. So if you're looking at doing, Jutland Part 2, however you want to say it, Germany obviously Hitler doesn't have a high seas fleet to do so at the time, but, Hitler wants one. So if you're going to do that, or you're going to do the, send out the Bismarck and whatever to do raiding against shipping or your U-boats, having air power and safe havens and supply bases in Norway greatly helps you. And that's definitely got to be in the German naval mindset. So it's going to come. And obviously invade. Now, one thing I always say, I'm thinking that if Germany did not invade Norway, would end up there at some point. Yeah, I was talking about, I think, that before you showed up, Beamslime, just occupying some islands to protect their supply lines. Yes, absolutely. And later on, of course, they would want to, that we know the history, that while they're still, I don't think people like Churchill and Chamberlain necessarily thought the Soviet Union and Germany were going to be best buddies, but they're not sure that they're even going to ever maybe go to war. And they're definitely not sure that they may go to war while Germany's still at war with Britain. They may just keep, peaceful coexistence until whatever war, however it ends, whether it's a German victory, German defeat, or some sort of negotiated, end to the war with Russia. So now we look back on it and think, well, yeah, supplying arms to Russia would have been useful. Well, that isn't necessarily on their minds in 1940. Especially early 1940. So you have this. But like I say, always got to understand warfare, and we often look at, victory points here and capitals and sort of simulating it. Warfare is a political act, okay? Warfare is a political act. And you always have to keep that in mind, whether you're playing a war game or anything else. Or playing war in real life. It is a political act. And so, just checking here, yep. The Norwegians have the better of it, but we're going to attack anyways because there are just them. And we're going to wear just one unit, and we're going to wear them down here. And now we're doing a little better with this second attack. We're going to keep pushing on them because the Fuhrer demands our victory. And so, if, as we've sort of been talking about, if Norway needs to be invaded, okay, fine, good. We're going to invade Norway. Now, what happens if the Germans lose in Norway? That really comes down to an interesting question, because, Hitler at this time is trying to maintain a civilian economy operating in Germany because he is worried about political support at home because, oops, they just played this game a few years ago and lost, war with the Western Allies. Russia was in it, but Russia, he's not sure, has his current peace, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, and that's going pretty good at this time. So But still, you know, they're sort of isolated. Mussolini is still not yet into the war. So it's Germany, and you can say Germany alone, but Slovakia is actually in the war too. Yay, Slovakia. But I still do not understand how one country almost the size sees the whole world. Oh, there's a lot of stuff that goes into that eraser, a lot of it. Part of it is, what I'm getting at here is a political act. Part of it is that. Is politics, is perception, perceptions of strength, perceptions of weakness, all of that come in. So Hitler is very unsure of his footing in Germany. He is very unsure of it. Now, why is Hitler in 1945, as Berlin is being hammered, not just like ringed around and besieged, but just driving, two Soviet fronts are pushing into Berlin simultaneously. Why are the Germans still fighting if this is some sort of political act that, you know, governments collapse and fall? It's because of what happens with France. With the fall of France, and I know it was on YouTube years ago, and it's probably still there, you can see film footage of the victory parade in Berlin after the fall of France. That is the moment. And Hitler's not even, I don't think Hitler's even there for that, the parade. But that is the moment that Hitler secures his political power. The fall of France, the signing of, you know, setting up the, you know, the Vichy, well, you know, Pétain's government moves around a bit. It's first in Bordeaux, eventually ends up in Vichy. But that, that armistice, that ending of that fight is when Hitler locks in his power. Up until that point, he is vulnerable to a collapse of his government. After that, functionally, he's invulnerable. And we can see this as, you know, there's assassination attempts. There are setbacks after setbacks. Tunisia, Stalingrad. You know, massive setbacks that might have collapsed other governments. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean the side you lose the war, because I think it was in mid to late 1944. I'm not great on dates, guys, but Tojo's government, or as Tojo as premier or whatever, prime minister or premier of Japan, falls. He is actually put under house arrest. And realizing it's well into 45 that Japan finally surrenders. So Tojo's government, for basically naval losses, which he is not responsible for. He is not running the naval war, and I could go into a lot of that stuff going on differently. But his government, the Tojo government, falls. Yeah, there's still the emperor. Yeah, there's another prime minister. Yeah, the war goes on. But his government falls. Hitler's government never falls with Stalingrad, Tunisia. Those are both about equally bad disasters. And then other setbacks. It's because, you know, because they get mesmerized, because the generals believed, the foot soldiers, the populace believed that the wonder weapons were coming, and they saw them. They saw the V weapons. They saw the Sturmgewehr rifle. They saw the Panther tank. You know, those were, you know, some of them seem mundane to us, you know, like the Sturmgewehr, the MP-44, but it was a wonder weapon. It was an infantry wonder weapon. They have the Panzerfest, the Panzerschreck. Yes, the Americans also have it too, but they see evidence of new technology coming, the jets. So, you know, with all of that, so warfare is a political act. So had the Allies been able to hold in Norway, had Germany failed in its invasion, that is a very interesting, because Hitler's not yet secured his power. Well, after 20 years, after 20 years, bloody World War I, apparently was hard to be a German and not be proud of. Oh yeah, absolutely, Eraser. Yeah, and see that, but that's all in the mix of the whole thing. You have to understand World War II. You have to understand it in the context, through the lens, if you will, of World War One and its aftermath and its effects. That is about the. You really have to get that. Okay, we're back to that. All right. I do want to keep playing while talking. And so, yeah, no way Norway can hold out against Germany. That's just a plain fact in the long run. Now, could the initial invasion have been defeated? Yeah, it was sort of a close run thing in my understanding anyways. It was no, assured victory operation kind of thing. And Norway was just, shall we say, unprepared for it. By being here and attacking the weaker one, we'll do better damage, hopefully put him down, and by sitting right next to our supply ship here, if it gets another air attack, it'll give some air cover. Now, these guys attack here. No, if we kill them and not just push them back, we don't need to occupy the woods, so we won't do that. We'll come down and go after this airfield, or airstrip, instead of an air base, but yeah. Right, okay. Now we have, this is our sort of biggest problem unit. Second one, they've retreated back there. Well, let's move him up here. We can get some victory points there. Here, these guys are doing the best. I wish our Navy would give us naval gunfire support, but no. Okay, we're too weak. We're going to reinforce that a bit. Now we had you come here and land. We'll see if we want to. Oh, we probably will reinforce you next turn. Okay, so this is the one in the middle that's sort of blocking our advance. And oh, it's okay. We still have some artillery. Yeah, that's the last of our ammunition. Until we get a bit of resupply up here. Okay. Maybe I should have gone up and shot that thing. I'm just seeing up there. We're gonna hit him hard. I just can. I want to eliminate the unit. Since they retreated, we're going to bring these guys up here and hopefully fully take them out. Good attack there, but I think we're going to move up here. Strike at the artillery, weaken that. So, like I say, in the long run, Norway's doomed from a German attack. had Norway been sort of, they did arm up considerably during World War One, but I don't know how serious they took it. Denmark also arms up seriously during World War One, but again, I don't know how seriously they took it. During World War One, Denmark, who made the Madsen light machine gun, which for its day and age was actually very good light machine gun, that was still being operated by like Portugal in 1975, and which predates World War One. They stopped selling their light machine guns to either belligerent powers. Now there was still a lot of companies would be set up and try to buy a bunch of the machine guns and then smuggle them out either to Russia or to Germany, or some made it to Austria. So they were being smuggled out, but Denmark didn't want to be seen to be arming either side in the war. And so they were, trying to, oh, no, we're not going to sell machine guns to belligerents, like neutrals, like Norway want our gun or Sweden want our gun, sure, but not belligerents. So they were trying to stay out of World War One that way. Where the Dutch realized their position was right there along the front lines, that the Germans are worried about their flanks, the Allies are worried that the Dutch are trading with the Germans. The Rhine River trade is continuing on. The Dutch vessels are going out into, out around through the Atlantic to their Dutch East Indies and are buying and selling things. So they're making a profit off of World War One, and they are something of a supply line. I don't quite have it nailed down just exactly how much they are selling to Germany, but they are. And so they're worried about Britain coming in. So the Dutch mobilize their armed forces as if they're at war during World War One through basically the whole war. And they entrench along their borders, with the Belgian and German borders, and secure some landing beach areas. And they really dig in now and really arm up. Armed neutrality, if you will. And what saves them from being wrecked or ruined is that they don't have the bloody expense both of human lives lost and the cost of all the munitions and actual fighting in the war. But they arm up. Had the Norwegians really sort of like go, oh shit, hey, there's aircraft now, and paratroopers and I know they've been barely used, but bombers and, they knew these things were around, and they're a lot more vulnerable than they were, say, in the last war for attack. Had they really armed up, really mobilized their forces, really gotten that, not wait for the invasion to then mobilize the forces, because that's what actually sort of happens. Oh, they probably had some national drills and whatnot. I'm not entirely familiar, but I know they were doing some preparedness. It wasn't like total unpreparedness, but they weren't really taking it as seriously as they could have been, in a practical could have been sense. I'm not just talking about some theoretical could have made all these things. No, in a practical sense, they could have done significantly more preparedness. They don't. And so that really dooms them there. But the other thing is the Allies could have more vigorously moved in. Narvik, the Germans win up in Narvik, but they're actually in the minority, a smaller force. It's just sort of determination. And the general losing around this Trondheim area, that they decide to pull out. And let's see, Jim, I can understand how that would be the case. The arms trade has changed somewhat since, yes, Denmark was well defended and neutral in World War One, so Germany could feel safe that their flank was safe. Yeah, nah. In World War One, they did do some mobilizing, my understanding, but if you look at what the Prussians did in the Austro-Prussian War, which is basically it was the war to get Prussia out of German politics to be able to eventually reunite Germany. And the Prussians just go in and kick the Danes' ass. Yeah, maybe some of the positions are fairly well fortified, but not that good. I think I saw a nice movie with Denmark, Resist on Borders versus Nazi Germany. Yeah, there was a few hours of fighting at most in Denmark until they were told to surrender. That was not a... Okay, I'm being foolish and pushing up here. That was not much of a fight. And the Danes just decided, maybe for good reason, to not resist. You know, unlike Norway with, you know, well, this is the North Sea down here for Britain, but whatever you want to call this part of the Atlantic up here, with the ability to get in support from other parts of the world, Britain and France at the time. And France was thought of as the great military power of the age. Yeah, everyone was mistaken, especially the French at that thought. But that they could have been better able to bring in support, where Denmark, in its locality, its closeness to Germany, there just really isn't a way for them to, you know, set up a relief force coming in. This one, nice, saw it a year ago during Corona time. Oh, okay, cool. Right, let's see, what have I forgot it while talking to move? No, that's good. Need to keep the supplies flowing. Oh, we can attack the airbase or airstrip. Yes, good. We'll reinforce because we may be seeing some allied landing suits. Oh, and you're going to get on board a boat. Okay, good. Okay, good. They're weakening and not reinforcing. We got these weak fighters. We'll shoot them down hopefully next turn. They've done the old switcheroo for some reason. Put the artillery on the front lines. Oh, they're attacking my 109s. Well, at least I got an air base I can... decide to if I want to. Okay, well, we're... Okay, well, we did a little better than they did. That is good. Now, since we're on the air theme, let's fly over here so we can get a little bit of a look. See if we can just shoot these fighters down. Very good. These guys are going to come this way. Capture goal. We have our Panzer Ones. Before we do that, I think we're going to concentrate our air power here. Oh yeah, they're both, they both have their pluses and minuses compared to each other between this and Panzer Corps. I do like how you can concentrate your air on one target, because that was often done Okay, what we're going to do is hopefully take these guys out. I think we're just going to sit there because that's better terrain. Okay, we're going to come here. See if we can take out Lilyhammer. Push in. This will maybe allow us to take these guys down. Yeah, this is a, you know, it's not the most, you know, technically realistic war game in the sense of like you know, Armored Brigade or others of a similar, you know, real-time strategy. Okay, we're just going to move you up to here. I don't want to rush my truck up. Oh, I should have moved to the side of the road because, okay, well, you live, you learn. If you live, you learn. Okay. Well, we dared and we won. Who dares wins. We've got another victory point there. But, you know, so it's not a real time. It's, you know, we can definitely see that there are more realistic, but it is a very good war game. Now, see what we can see here is, I've actually already thought of this. We have two infantry units over here that are pure leg infantry. They're gonna, and this is sort of blocked off for here, this region here, and you see this region here where these flags are. We can't really go, so we could try to march our way up all around through here and whatnot, and that'll take a long time. They moved their capital with the fall of whatever this was to Bergen up here. But I don't know that that's critical for the scenario. So what we're going to do is, you see these two trains, and we're right on the train track, so we're going to move them via train. Now, you can only go along territory that you hold, and you must disembark at a city, because we embarked at this city hex. So we can get to here before we start walking again, but then we might be able to get on a train again and catch all the way up to the front. So that is our plan of rapid strategic movement here. We're going to move up our AA gun just because we might find a use for it, I guess. I'm not so sure that we will, but right. Yeah, you hang out there. Oh, these guys. We'll do this. We're doing pretty good with points, but we'll do the cheap reinforcement so that we can get them back to, so I'm doing a little less risky to seeing what the Allies are doing around here. I'm expecting them to land up there. Oh, here, okay. Well, we're out of ammo, but I'm not sure if moving them probably is going to delay the ammo, but we also, they're out of range of engaging anything, even if they had the ammo. Oh, there's the British. Well, at least we're not on the bridge, but that isn't a very good defensive spot. Okay, well. Gamer's in trouble. Okay, so we have a bunker there. I know we have these units here. That will just kill. This one will kill to put it out of our misery. But I don't want to advance in this direction. These guys are like low on ammo. Even just the Panzer ones. Now, another bit of history here. Tanks were used in the invasion of Norway. From the photographic evidence that I have, there was a friend of mine. I have a few friends that are Norwegian that are into all this, but there was some sort of Norwegian prototype tank thingy, I think, but I don't think it was used at all in the war. It may have not even been around by the time the war started. The Germans, the British, to the best of my knowledge, and I'm going from photographs, did not bring any tanks to Norway. The French brought some, the Renault R35s. I'm pretty sure they were, and not the Hotchkiss H35s. I'm pretty sure they were the Renault 35s. Those were the two-man, sort of the upgrade, if you will, from the old Renault FT17, in that they used the same gun, literally the same gun, World War I leftovers of the 37 millimeter light. The Americans call it the 1-pounder, and they used it as a dismounted weapon. Well, and they also used it in the FT-17s as well. It's sort of a low pressure 37 millimeter gun where, like, the gun in the 38Ts and the 35Ts, which are, those are the same guns, but they're slightly different chamber than the Panzer III 37 millimeter guns, but those are all high velocity 37 millimeter guns. This is a low velocity 37 millimeter gun and a coaxial machine gun. So they have both. They're two-man, a driver and a turret guy, gunner, loader, commander, looking around. They had a few of those. So the French brought some Renault R35s. The Germans brought some Panzer Is. I definitely see there's sort of a famous photograph in which there's like at least a squad of guys, 12 or so, all sort of walking behind a Panzer I, hunched over to hide behind it as it advanced from enemy fire. So they brought Panzer Is, which you see here, but they also brought the Neubautfahrzeug. I'm reasonably sure I'm close on that pronunciation. Hey, Eric. He's one of my Norwegian friends I was talking about. So they brought the 3 Neubautfahrzeugs, the new things. These are the big German behemoth tanks that had both a short-barreled 75 millimeter of the type used on the Panzer IV and a 37 millimeter gun type used on the Panzer III in a dual mounting in a main turret along with a machine gun, plus two, basically a single machine gun, but basically the two turrets from the Panzer one on it as a big sort of behemoth tank. Lightly armored, actually, not that great of a tank, but they were used in combat a little bit. Movie named Max Manus is also a great World War II movie set in Norway. Yes, The King's Choice. So yes, so this is quite historically correct in that they're using a Panzer I. Okay, you have the best. Man, looks like we're going to take you out. That's good news. Okay, we're going to be daring and risk driving up here because I think there's only the airstrip. We're going to leave these guys parked this turn. These guys can walk to there. Yeah, let's take off. Well, thanks for waiting for after the stream, Jam, today. I do appreciate it. Yes. Munster, it was not impressive. Well, okay, yeah. The Panzer I was, well, the very first, Gamer and his talks, the very first, if you will, basically, I don't even know if you can call it a pan, you can't call it a, what is it? It's a Panzerkampfwagen. The very first one were wagons. In that they had no upper body. They didn't have any armor. They had just an engine, some tracks, and you see the guy sitting there driving the thing around. And they didn't even have an upper body. These were some of the earliest versions of iterations of a Panzer I. So they were a Kampf one, a Wagen one, because there were no battle readiness because they didn't even have guns on them. But they were, early experimental what to do with modern tanks. And so that's, sort of an engine, transmission, drive tracks, and sort of get the feel of what this will do. Then, of course, you had the Panzer ones were sort of experimental tanks. But, if you're an infantryman with a bolt-action rifle, or let's even say you're an infantryman with an anti-tank rifle, like the Polish had, I'm not sure if the French had one. I know the British had the Boys anti-tank rifle. The Soviets used a 14.5 millimeter anti-tank rifle. Yeah, okay, those things can actually sort of penetrate the armor. Depends on what model. The Germans had some anti-tank rifles as well. Depending on the range and the type of gun and, the thickness of the armor and whatnot. But let's just say they can even penetrate the Panzer I. But they're not like going to necessarily knock the tank out, a single shot. You got a Panzer I coming at you. And it's spitting machine gun bullets? That's, something that I don't know that I'm going to be a bit afraid of. Now, if I can go hide up in the mountain, hide in the, thick trees, go hide in a town, okay. Because if you can get in a town with walls that are solid enough to stop a German 7.92 machine gun round. Now, they have special rounds that would penetrate armor for that gun, and so that they could, you can hide behind the wall and keep peeking over as they get near and get by and throw a Molotov cocktail on it. Yeah, okay. But unless you have some sort of terrain like that, you're having actually it's MG15s. They use 2 MG15s on the Panzer I. So, okay. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to move you to here along the tracks, and the next turn we're going to get onto the after moving. So next turn we'll move. So we'll go a lot further because we could get to here walking. Well, that's actually not so bad along that road, but we'll just get to here, and next turn they'll get to there, and then we'll walk and then get back. So yeah, and you know, for what it is, I mean, compared to a modern, you know, when we see a more modern, bigger tank, yeah, it's not impressive compared to that. But if you don't have much else, we're gonna hopefully let these supply catch up. Okay. Fortunately, this guy is probably gonna fall. We're not going to attack out. We're gonna keep reinforcing. We're going to keep holding this. I should have moved him back to here, though. Yeah. With this fortress here, I either needed better forces to take it. We're not in a good shape. It would have been better to hide behind the bridge here, but we'll have to see. So, well, you're going to turn around and start going the other direction. I think you will too. We'll leave taking the airstrip later. And then move our fighter back down because he needs. I really wish we could have held on to that airbase. I just don't trust. Oh, and we can't land there with the infantry sitting there either. Well, maybe we should have moved up to there into the fort. Yeah, we probably either. So I just don't see a good solution here. Not that it needs to, you know, have to be a good solution here.